Here we are, everyone. The moment you've all been waiting for. Recoded. Ah, yeah. Haha. Recoded. Yeah. I seriously don't even know where to begin here. Kingdom Hearts Recoded is a Nintendo DS remake of the Japan-exclusive mobile game Kingdom Hearts Coded, which takes place after Kingdom Hearts 2 and was converted into a cutscene collection later on. According to co-director Hajime Tabata, Nomura was drunk one night, not joking, and came up with the idea of a mobile spin-off that would serve as a playground for players. Tabata also said he thought the idea was terrible at first. Oh god, am I really about to do this? Is this really happening? Are we about to break down, in great detail, the merits of Kingdom Hearts Recoded? Only for this series. Only for you, Nomura. I just love you too much. It's time for a Kingdom Hearts Recoded retrospective. I will try my damnedest to derive meaning from this video game if it kills me. Brief recap, as usual. Aqua, Terra, and Ventus are all Keyblade wielders in training at the Land of Departure. Aqua becomes a Keyblade Master, but when mysterious creatures threaten the worlds, Terra and Aqua go to hunt down and eliminate the new threat, followed by Ventus. To make a long story short, Ventus clashes with the dark half of himself extracted by Xehanort to form the ultimate weapon, the Keyblade. Terra is possessed by Master Xehanort, and Aqua has to salvage what little she can of these two Dumbos, leaving her stranded in the realm of darkness. Terra, now possessed by Xehanort, loses his memory and becomes an apprentice of Ansem, leading to the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. Ventus is in an eternal sleep, his heart fractured and healing inside of Sora, and his body hidden by Aqua in Castle Oblivion, formerly known as the Land of Departure. Oh yeah, also, Eraqus died, and Xehanort's evil. Those be the basics. Kingdom Hearts Recoded is useless. Absolutely fucking useless. It's a story about Jiminy's journal. One day, a mysterious message appears, and the Disney gang try to solve the mystery by inserting a data version of Sora inside the journal so that he can go run around in Kingdom Hearts 1 Disney Worlds again and battle bug blocks. Usually these games have a little more going on that I can dive into. Character development, tragedy, theming, all that good, juicy melodrama. Recoded is an even more shameless excuse to go through Kingdom Hearts 1 again than Chain of Memories, which at least felt like it was trying for something. Recoded is, however, part of the chronology. It exists to uncover information left by Naminé about how Sora needs to go save the Birth by Sleep trio and other assorted characters. In fact, that's what the bottle at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 was. It was a message from Mickey telling Sora that he has to go save people, and also that he needs to go take the Mark of Mastery with Riku. That's all the bottle was. For years, I wondered what was in that damn bottle, and this is all it was. Ooh, oy vey. It's alright, that's fine. It doesn't really matter what was in the bottle at the end of the day, it was just a silly cliffhanger. There's really nothing for me to dig into here, but I guess I'm gonna try. You go to Disney Worlds, Data Sora is a new creation, so he doesn't know anyone from the Disney Worlds, and they don't know who he is either. So everyone is just meeting for the first time all over again. I don't know how else to describe how nothing this content is. Back when one of my friends was getting into the series for the first time, I was sometimes on a voice call with him while he experienced certain moments in the series for the first time. Since I hadn't actually watched the Recoded movie before in full, I decided that when he got to that point, we'd sit in a voice call and watch it together. About an hour into the thing, I fell asleep. I drifted off somewhere in Alice in Wonderland and woke up to Roxas beating Sora's ass. That's kinda what playing the game feels like. You wander from Disney World to Disney World, a whole lot of nothing dialogue happens, there are some pointless little interludes here and there. I guess Maleficent and Pete are involved, but they aren't even involved with the real Sora, so they're just kinda there. Are there any themes to unpack? A bunch of riddles show up in the journal, maybe they all mean something. No, not really. They're all just different variations of, lol, go clean up bugs and save the broken hearts, please. It's laughable that this game ends with a fight against Roxas because it completely misses the point of what made that fight so cool in the first place. It was Roxas in a genuine duel with Sora, trying to make his voice heard in whatever way he could, trying to make himself a real person until he resigned to his fate and let Sora take the reins. In Recoded, he's just Naminé's bugged up messenger. Okay, to be charitable, the game is clearly trying to go for the Sora needs to learn what hurt is angle, and characters try to drill it into him, but again, this isn't actually Sora. When Roxas goes on this emotional diatribe about hurt and being worthless, blah 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 blah, the emotional music swells in the background. Sora tries to explain what he's feeling. It's all great. Or at least, it would be great if any of these fucking people were real. And hey, I'm into a good metaphor, so just because the characters aren't real or the events on screen aren't to be taken literally, I'd be okay with that. But if this is supposed to be a metaphor, what does it represent? What's the message, theme, idea, anything that it's trying to communicate? Sora learns to carry the hurt inside him, and the journal is testing him to see if he's ready. Is that supposed to be a clue to indicate that Sora isn't ready, which will pay off later during his Mark of Mastery exam? What does hurt mean? That Sora should be thankful that he has life, even though he's harboring memories and feelings from those that have lost the ability to live theirs? Instead of trying to live life so selfishly, he should be trying to save the people that only he can save. Alright, that's all well and good. But again, this isn't the real fucking Sora! I think the most plausible meaning you can draw from this is that Naminé was trying to make sure that Sora could handle taking on all this hurt, without subjecting him to it directly. Basically, she was trying to see if he was up to the task of saving everyone, hypothetically. You could read him destroying bug blocks as him trying to scrub away the bad memories and pave the way toward a good future. It was a Mark of Mastery conducted by Naminé to see if he was ready to go be a savior. Okay, that's cool. And then he goes and does an actual Mark of Mastery that is conducted to see if he's ready to be a savior, and he has a thing near the end where he learns more about the people that need to be saved, and oh fuck, am I really doing this?
You've become more than the system, Sora. The power you've found inside of you isn't like anybody else's. And when you access that power, that's what brought your Keyblade back. Well, and that's what I believe anyway. Only you had the power to do it.
A power that's just mine.
Yep. I think that's right.
What does that mean? What are you fucking talking about, Mickey? Alright, so just because Sora isn't real doesn't mean there can't be fun moments here and there. The data recreations of characters are so spot on that you can kind of assume this is how the real characters would also act. We know this already because of the data Twilight Town. There's an idea presented in the second game that the emotions felt by the data Twilight Town somehow traverse into the real Twilight Town, in a very vague sense. It's not entirely unreasonable to imagine that the trials data Sora went through would eventually transfer over to the real Sora. The problem, especially in hindsight, is that those feelings really don't transfer in the way you'd expect. In Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora has a line about how he knows what hurt feels like.
He was in the data scan too.
Uh-huh. It was a test to see if your data version was ready to face the hurt that you carry inside.
Was I ready? I do know hurt. When I lost Riku and Kairi, and later when I lost the Keyblade, and you guys had to go on without me like that? Having no one to turn to was the worst kind of hurt, but that just shows how much you mean to me. Carrying around a little hurt can't be all that bad.
But the scene goes out of its way to show that only Donald and Goofy understand what data Sora went through. What Sora says is that he knows hurt because of what happened to him in Kingdom Hearts 1, which makes sense, he went through a lot in that game. So, perhaps watching Sora go through a trial, even if it isn't the real Sora, is still enjoyable because it's the idea that we're watching Sora go through something arduous that's supposed to be entertaining. Unfortunately, I also think this is a flawed way to look at the story. First of all, anyone that's been following the series for this long already understands that Sora has gone through his own trials in the past. We already understand that he has experienced hurt, so seeing a data version of him go through a trial just because Naminé wasn't sure is odd. Secondly, the actual trial doesn't feel as authentic as it did in the first game. Kingdom Hearts 1 Sora was ripped away from his island and his friends. He spent the entire game searching for them, and when you got to Hollow Bastion, Donald and Goofy leaving him behind really hurt. It was one of his lowest points, and also one of his greatest triumphs. After that, I was willing to see any adventure with him through to the end. Recoded has a few scenes that truly test Data Sora, or at least try to. This scene with Donald and Goofy is clearly trying for a similar mood. However, there's something about it that doesn't feel right.
What are you talking about? You don't need to apologize to us.
Huh?
Actually, we kinda like getting dragged into your messes.
You like it? But why?
Because it's no fun watching from the other side of the screen. We wanted to go on an adventure with you at all times.
You don't need a Keyblade, Sora, when you have us with you.
Thanks, Donald. You too, Goofy.
The real Sora has already risen past this particular breed of self-doubt, so it's like we're watching him rise past that exact same sense of self-doubt. Maybe this is trying to say that no matter what, Sora will always be the kind of person to rise above those insecurities, and it's the ability to show something like that which convinces Naminé that he's ready for upcoming challenges. But even with this view of the story, it leaves so many scenes in the latter half ringing hollow. Sora and Riku have some heartfelt conversations, but Data Sora just has all the answers. When he's up against Roxas, it doesn't seem like he's shaken in the slightest. It's hard to feel like Sora was put through any kind of test, he just passes with flying colors. Not to spoil too much, but I find his test in Dream Drop Distance and its eventual conclusion that would be followed up by Kingdom Hearts 3 a much more meaningful character journey than a few scant cutscenes in Recoded that don't end up meaning much for our main character. Recoded simply serves to show us a bunch of stuff we already know, and we really didn't need that. I'm about at my wit's end here. Look, I tried. I really tried. There's nothing here. Don't search for it. You won't find it.
And so ended our journey to connect those memories with these. Sora, when Naminé's words are passed on to you, when the day comes that you learn of this great, unknown, and mysterious adventure, it's important that you understand, whatever you feel in your heart, that's what he felt in his.
All that leaves us are the systems themselves. Is it a fun video game? I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of fun. Recoded uses the command deck introduced in Birth by Sleep, so you still buy commands, merge them, and juggle around your hand to use them in combat. In an interesting move, it actually kinda expands upon the idea in a way that not even Dream Drop Distance would. Merging is handled a bit more naturally. You put two abilities together, and they turn into a temporary fusion command that will appear on your deck. Through repeated use, these two base commands will level up the same way they did in Birth by Sleep. When they hit max, you can fuse them into the command you've been using to keep it permanently, and then you continue the cycle. See, it used to be a pain to experiment with command melding, since you never really had any idea what you were gonna get unless you were looking at a melding chart. Not to mention that crucial abilities like Once More, Second Chance, and Leaf Bracer were tied behind this system. Recoded not only allows you to see what your two commands will turn into, it allows you to use the resulting command before you fuse it. Any potential buffs you'd get are not at all required in the same way core abilities would be, so you can rest easy and experiment away to find commands you like using. It's not lacking in variety either. You get triple magic shots on Tetskin, Stun Impact, and some new ones like Judgment Triad, Shockfall, and Gravity Drop. The latter can only be obtained through the conversion system, so experimentation is highly encouraged. It keeps a fairly mundane DS Kingdom Hearts combat system interesting for quite a while. Enemy AI, unfortunately, isn't anything remarkable. It's hard to imagine playing something like Kingdom Hearts 2 on a handheld, especially with its quick and aggressive nobody variants. Usually, Recoded will throw you elementals that shoot slow magic attacks your way, or fat bodies interspersed with soldiers. You guard and dodge a lot of simple attacks along with some platforming reminiscent of the first game. Thankfully, movement in Recoded doesn't feel as stiff as it was in 358. Platforms are made out of blocks, which makes it a lot easier to position Sora with a D-pad control scheme. Jumps are floaty enough that you're given a fair bit of leeway while exploring hard-to-reach areas. Usually, though, the game goes out of its way to distract the player from how mundane this core loop could easily become, both through its own progression system and through its frequent gameplay style shifts. Recoded is threaded along by a strong core theme: scalability. It makes itself known through every minute detail. Each glitched sector minigame will give you a side mission to complete, where you can try to get more DP by betting your own. In isolation, these side missions aren't very difficult. Some of them ask you to defeat every enemy, some of them ask you to destroy a certain amount of blocks, some of them ask you to not heal yourself. They're fun distractions until you combine them with your other modifiers. Inside Data Sora is a stat matrix, a somewhat evolved version of the ability menu in 358. You have to bridge the gap between various data sectors in order to unlock permanent abilities and other systems. Although it might seem like just another ability window, you have to make the same difficult decisions when placing each chip: raising magic, health, strength, adding resistances, buffing stats, or simply adding another level onto Sora. You've got to decide where you're going to place these chips. If placed in between two CPUs, those chips will be overclocked, doubling their value. You've got to figure out the best way to consolidate your most powerful chips in a limited amount of space. Do you chuck all your level up chips in there, or add some magic buffs? You can switch out some chips for others, but you can never simply remove them. So although it is possible to switch out chips as you gain new ones, it's very difficult to reorganize your entire stat matrix at will. Though this is a unique leveling system that gives the player a lot of statistical freedom, there are numerous subsystems that affect the entire datascape in more meaningful ways. Recoded has a bevy of difficulty modifiers that aren't simply hidden in a menu somewhere. In fact, you don't choose which difficulty you want at the beginning of the game. Instead, you eventually unlock a difficulty toggle inside the stat matrix. You can turn the knob to choose from beginner, standard, proud, and critical mode. In terms of what they all do, it just seems like they tweak the HP you lose from enemies and decrease the amount you do to them, but for once, this isn't as important. Since the actual combat of this game is nothing remarkable, it's gonna be a bit boring at base no matter what difficulty you're on, and enemy health bars are never long enough to reach the insane chip damage of Birth by Sleep's critical mode grind. What's more interesting about this system is that it's classified as a cheat instead of an option. Raising the difficulty will raise your chance of getting items, and will improve your rewards when you're ranked at the end of a world. You get better items and commands for playing on critical, especially if you're consistently ranked well. That's just the beginning though. There's a loot cheat, which will increase the rate at which you get items at the cost of Sora's HP, which you can adjust by the percentage. Do you want a higher chance for item drops, or do you want more HP? It's completely up to you, since you can change it at any point. Prize cheat raises the likelihood that you'll get a rare drop at the cost of making enemies a lot stronger. You can increase the amount of CP received by lowering the amount of EXP you take in, and vice versa. Finally, there's a cheat that tampers with everyone's max HP. You can lower the max HP of every enemy to 1, but Sora will also be at 1 HP. Once again, on their own, they don't really mean a whole lot, but when combined, they are so fun to play around with. Firstly, it's amazing that I don't feel like I have to toggle everything to max. As they're all introduced, you can tweak them to your liking almost as if you're tweaking your damn mouse sensitivity. Critical mode is a nice overall challenge, so I like keeping that on even for tough fights. Then, I like to test out each boss fight to see where I could get away with making the game harder. Cerberus was a real pain in the ass with a hop ton of modifiers on, but tweaking them just a bit made the fight more manageable. Not only are players incentivized to use this system for better rewards, and are punished for lowering the difficulty too much, they can also use it to craft a uniquely fluid difficulty. Past games were extremely rigid in their difficulty selections. You were stuck with whatever the game gave you. Lower attack, HP, whatever. Recoded is so customizable that you'll arrive at a comfortable difficulty for every single fight. Plus, the option is still there for the whack jobs that want to turn everything to the max. Though you're technically punished for playing on beginner, the beauty of Recoded is that you can still do things like reduce your maximum HP or make enemies stronger to bring that drop rate back up. Additionally, there's a ranking system at play. Each Disney World gives you a score, which you increase by defeating enemies, finding secrets, getting rid of bug blocks, and by finishing in a short amount of time for a big bonus. You can also revisit worlds after you've completed them, so you can try for a higher rank. Though I decided to challenge myself and play everything on critical mode, there is certainly a reason why you might want to play everything on standard first, and then come back later to perfect your scores on critical. You're given so much freedom as to how you want to tackle each challenge based on whether you want better rewards immediately for more satisfying command conversion, or whether you want an easier time so coming back for more of a challenge doesn't feel as brutal. As a fan of arcade-influenced games and the replayability they encourage, Recoded is an absolute blast if you can place it in a vacuum. If you can just ignore everything going on around these systems, it can be a fun time waster. You're almost always doing something different, so you don't have to scrutinize the base combat too much. There are 2D platforming sections, stealth sections, shoot-'em-up sections, turn-based combat sections. It's crazy. The rules are turned on their head every single world. Of course, it runs the risk of alienating players who aren't into those specific styles. I absolutely despised the 2D platforming section. It controlled like garbage, the boss was repetitive, and I just couldn't stand it. But that ended very quickly, and moments later I found myself in a fun shoot-'em-up. These little minigames break up the pace rather than replace the core system, which I really appreciate. I can only take a minimalist base combo against brain-dead enemies for so long. This has created a really interesting speedrun that I love watching. It's fun to see people conquer these challenges who really know what they're doing, and part of me even wants to become one of those people. Unfortunately, as fun as it can be, it is extremely hard for me to reconcile in this series specifically. I don't know if this sounds paradoxical, but I can usually put up with a frustrating set of flawed systems as long as the entry feels like a meaningful chapter in the overarching narrative that I've been following for years. It would be ideal if all of the titles were fun and meaningful, but we don't always get that lucky. I found myself more lenient on flawed games like Birth by Sleep because its character struggles are so profound. There are new Disney Worlds, boss fights, music, ideas. Everything's at least new. 358 Days Over 2 is a pain in the ass to actually play, but that ironically ends up strengthening the tragic narrative it presents. Recoded is a playground of ideas and mechanics that are certainly fun to play around with, and even to master, but it's wrapped in such a boring package. A pointless retread of old ground that borders on being so meaningless that I actually fell asleep. A set of Disney Worlds we've seen several times already, music we've already heard, bosses we've already seen. It's an extremely solid set of core ideas that unfortunately are probably never going to warrant a replay anytime soon, and have never been adopted by future Kingdom Hearts games. I guess I'll put it this way. I do play Kingdom Hearts to have fun. There are a lot of mob fights that can feel like filler, but are easy to look past because they offer a similar amount of tools as Recoded. It's a somewhat simple combat system for sure, but it's endlessly fun. Yet, the reason I keep coming back to the individual chapters is for moments like Roxas pouring his heart out in a battle against Sora, Aqua desperately trying to keep her fragile friend group maintained despite overwhelming odds, Xion and Roxas fighting to the death at a place they used to call home. It's a fun, goofy series with a heart of gold. Recoded is fun, but it'll always lack a heart. A true, helpless nobody. Bye.